So we've got a pretty big bombshell, which I haven't really seen anyone talk about, which is that Israel knew about the October 7th attack by Hamas for over a year. So according to the New York Times, who received a report, Israeli officials obtained Hamas's battle plan for the October 7th terrorist attack more than a year before it happened, documents, emails, and interviews show. But Israeli military and intelligence officials dismissed the plan as aspirational, considering it too difficult for Hamas to carry out. The approximately 40-page document, which the Israeli authorities codenamed Jericho Wall, outlines point by point exactly the kind of devastating invasion that led to the deaths of about 1,200 people. Hamas followed the blueprint with shocking precision. The document called for a range of rockets at the outset of the attack, drones to knock out the security cameras and automated machine guns along the border, and gunmen to pour into Israel en masse in paragliders, on motorcycles and on foot, all of which happened on October 7th. The plan also included details about the location and size of Israeli military forces, communication hubs, and other sensitive information, raising questions about how Hamas gathered its intelligence and whether there were leaks inside the Israeli security establishment. This is incredible. So Israel's intelligence service is one of the best in the world, and initially when the October 7th attack happened, we were all pretty perplexed at how Israel had no idea about it. I mean, it just seems strange. Given that Israel surveils Palestine, especially Gaza, yes, they don't technically occupy it, but in reality, they still kind of do. And yes, Israel spies on them. So how did they miss it? Well, now we know the truth. They didn't. Well, not quite anyway. So this begs the question, how the hell did the October 7th attack happen if they knew about it? So the report from the NYT shows they knew the precise detail of the attack, but just didn't know when. And of course, not knowing when it's going to happen is a key bit of information they didn't have, which could explain how Hamas managed to get away with it. But did they not think, well, we're going to up our defense, we're going to put in a strategy since they were warned beforehand? So basing our assumption on this report, it was the sheer arrogance on the part of Israel, which doesn't really surprise me. I mean, in the article, it literally says that the intelligence leaders didn't think Hamas had the capacity to do such a thing. Well, clearly they did. Now, an analyst warns their superiors that Hamas were training for this. They observed and felt this is serious. I utterly refute that the scenario is imaginary, the analyst wrote in the email exchanges. The Hamas training exercise, she said, fully matched the content of Jericho Wall. It is a plan designed to start a war, she added. It's not just a raid on the village, which apparently a colonel in the Gaza division brushed off her concerns. Officials privately concede that, had the military taken these warnings seriously and redirected significant reinforcements to the south, where Hamas attacked, Israel could have blunted the attacks or possibly even prevented them. Now, many people will speculate what's happening here. Some may think that Israel knew this attack was going to happen on the 7th and just allowed it to happen in order to justify the ramping up of the genocide of Palestinians. Look, I definitely think that Netanyahu is depraved enough to allow this. I'm certainly not going to give him a pass on his vile moral character, but there is no evidence that this is the case. Plus, one thing that would contradict this is the fact that Netanyahu wants power. He wants to stay in his position, and the Hamas attack undermines his leadership. Of course, people are going to think, well, Netanyahu can't keep Israel safe. So I don't know if allowing these attacks to happen solidifies his position. And again, given the lack of evidence, I can't say whether it's true. But what is true is that Netanyahu, I don't think, gives a crap about protecting lives, and his leadership has endangered Israeli civilians. It's also incredibly obvious that Israel is using what happened on the 7th of October to justify the mass slaughter of innocent Palestinians. And given that Netanyahu is a genocidal maniac, I doubt the attack affected him in any way. I mean, his first thought would have probably been, let's use this as an opportunity. So yeah, this is quite the bombshell. I mean, I haven't really seen anyone talk about this. I mean, in fact, I heard about this from US commentator Carl Klinsky. Without him, I didn't even see it. So I think it's worth reading the NYT article. I'll put a link in the description. But I'm intrigued where we go from here. And you know, the lack of conversation about this seems kind of strange. I mean, I'm not surprised that pro-Israel people aren't talking about this because this paints Israel in a bad light. But those highly critical of Israel, I would have thought there would have been discussions surrounding this, or I just completely missed this one. And there are some who have brought this up. But to me, this is a huge story. So if anyone has talked about it, Clearly, it hasn't been enough.